Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Let me make sure I'm on. Yeah, seeing myself moving and shaking and everything's green. Guys, before I start off, I know it's early, it's like 5 in the morning. I couldn't sleep, so my wife is gonna be upstairs asleep. I didn't want to wake her up, so I came down and got some work done. Before I start, I would like to thank all of my subscribers, all of the people who like my videos and share my videos. You guys are immensely appreciated. All of the patrons, of course, all the people who give super cash during these live chats. You guys are immensely appreciated. Sometimes when I'm doing my initial spill, I don't necessarily see all of the people who give the cash just because we're not necessarily looking at the monitor. But if I don't call your name, just let me know later on. You guys are immensely appreciated. Thank you very much. I've gotten to the point of trying to make this like a part-time position. The goal, of course, is always to make it full-time, just because I enjoy doing it. I like getting new news out. I like being able to expand the channel. And so I do put a little bit more emphasis on this idea of Patreon and Super Cash now. But either way, if you're just liking videos or you're sharing it, thank you very much. So, one of my subscribers, what's the gentleman's name? And I have to be honest, this is not fully fleshed out because it's 5 in the morning. So if it's not as crisp as I would like it to be, forgive me. Whoa, what is that? Let's mute that tab. One of my subscribers, Old Rusty, time for it, sent me an image of something. And to paraphrase him, dude, you need to get Sanders. Your boy is running around the country talking about Russia. Take a look at it. And his point was, look, I know you like Bernie Sanders, but this Russia stuff, he needs to cut the shit out. This is problematic. Handle your boy. Handle your boy. So Bernie Sanders. The release of Nunez's memo is a blatant attempt by House Republicans in the White House to disrupt the critically important investigation into Russia's interference in the 2016 election and possible collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign. At least they didn't say collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign. He stuck in possible. That's a lot more than other people would have done. Look, I personally, I find this to be problematic and at most rather dangerous. I don't like this. I mean, in my mind, this was a leak, not a hack. Bernie Sanders running around screaming about Russia, pivoting us into some kind of conflict with that nation is problematic at best, especially when they haven't necessarily even established the link, or even the fact that it took place to create that link in the first place. I don't like it. I don't like it. Whether it's for politics, whether he believes it, I don't like it. And I gotta be honest, I don't know which one it is, and I'm not even sure if it matters. I have something to say on this, but I want to make a point first. We all, nail this down. Recently, this happened today. U.S.-backed Free Syrian Army group shoots down Russian jet and kills pilot. Now, to give context on this, the Obama administration had been arming terrorist groups in Syria, just like it was arming terrorist groups in Libya in order to topple the Gaddafi regime. It was arming terrorist groups in Syria. It was giving it weapons and resources in order to topple the Assad government. And I use the term Assad government in the same way the Trump government or Obama government or Bush government. It is an actual government. It's a real thing. It's a collection that has rules and regulations and laws and all this other stuff. It's a real thing. The idea that you're paying terrorists to topple that real thing and plunge that system into chaos, just like you plunged Libya into chaos, is disturbing. It is disturbing. It takes a sick personality to think that that's an awesome idea, and yet that is what Democrats in the Obama administration was doing. Hillary Clinton wanted to invest us even further into Syria. We have nothing to do with Syria. We should have nothing to do with Syria. She wanted to invest us in it further in the same way that Obama had invested us in it up to that point. Mainstream media knew about this. They knew about this. They knew that the United States government was paying another terrorist groups to topple another government. They knew it. They kept their mouth shut about it. They didn't talk about it. It took Tulsi Gabbard, after having their trip to Syria, to come on mainstream media to say, we need to stop arming terrorist groups. We need to stop doing that. We're toppling other governments. We need to stop doing that. In which Jake Tapper recoiled. The government says, being state media that they are, repeating the government's word for word. Russia, in this particular case, the arms that they were using, the resource that they were using, shot down a Russian jet. The United States government goes into a proxy war with Russia in Syria. In that proxy war, weapons that the United States gave was able to shoot down the jet by the force on the other end of that proxy. Tell me you can understand the danger of this. Things that we're doing just shot down, or things that we've done just shot down a Russian jet. Now, Hillary Clinton would have gotten us more ensconced into Syria, making this more likely, not just more likely by us directly. Whatever you want to say about Trump, him stopping those Syrian weapons was a good thing. Him stop arming terrorists to undermine the Syrian government was a good thing. We have nothing to do with this. We should have nothing to do with this. And the idea that we in this country is using taxpayer money to give to terrorists, oh, that's gross. That's gross. Especially when those terrorists are trying to do to Syria what was done to Libya. Mainstream media ignores it. Completely ignores it. Pretends as if it doesn't exist. That's what you call bias. They're propaganda networks. I bring this up because I try to get this thing across with how these things are viewed. Yeah, and by the way, before anybody says, well, that just proves that Donald Trump works with Putin, Donald Trump also armed the Ukraine. He also armed the Ukraine, who is in a direct conflict with Russia. So there's that theory. Look, there's certain points of view on this particular topic. This is dangerous. This is a dangerous point of view. Meaning what these guys are doing, whether it's politics or whether it's just political posturing, I don't care. It is dangerous. You're positioning the United States with a war with another nation, a nuclear-powered nation at that. And there is no conversation about a war with Russia without adding China into that mix. You believe, meaning this country believes, that because it spends $1 trillion on the military, that you are getting $1 trillion bang for your buck. How do you know? As rapacious as corporations are in order to, get their corporate welfare and a feed at the trough, and the fact that you're paying certain people in order to make sure that that money keeps flowing into their coffers, how do you know that with the level of corruption that exists in politics and corporate America, that you are getting the bang for your buck? Are you getting the bang for your buck in healthcare? We pay 4 times as much as the rest of the world. We do not in any way get the bang for the buck. In fact, we're like 30-something in regards to the rate of healthcare or where we are in relation to the rest of the world in regards to healthcare. We're nowhere near number 1, even though we pay 4 times as much as everyone else. Do you get my point? Just because you're spending a huge amount of money on something doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting some kind of relationship back to the amount of weapons and arms and bullets that you have at your disposal. That's the point I'm making on this. And the same way we pay 4 times as much as healthcare, we be paying a shitload of money in regards to defense and not necessarily getting what you're thinking you're getting in relation to the amount of money that you're spending for that defense. I am making the point that I would argue it is more likely you're not. The money is going into other people's coffers. Just because you spend $1 trillion, they use that $1 trillion as almost a weapon into itself. Is look how much money we spend. We spend 6 times more than you guys. Do you really want to fuck with us? This braggadociousness associated with money wasted. Just because you spend that much doesn't necessarily mean that you will win the conflicts that you're in. You will be at war with multiple countries. And just so you know, those are nuclear power nations, meaning there is no winning that conflict. Even if you technically win the conflict, you've lost, inevitably, the conflict. Throwing your weight around in this way is not recommended. That's all I'm saying. Every empire that thought it had won the game and had this kind of world supremacy and world domination was on the precipice of losing that world supremacy and world domination. Hubris is not a good trick. That's all I'm saying. That's the first part. Positioning us at war with somebody else is magnificently dangerous. It's magnificently dangerous. Whether Sanders believes it or not, I don't know. I don't know. I look at this stuff from the standpoint of point of views. So if in any conversation, any kind of political discourse, God is off the table. I can't see your God. I don't necessarily know if your God exists. I have to assume that he doesn't exist. He's off the table. The chess pieces that are on the board are the pieces that we have to work with. Now, that presents certain problems, of course. If you were the only person on this planet, the things that would have value would be the things that you yourself gave value to. That value, the moment that a consciousness leaves that situation, evaporates. If there is no God to give any kind of purpose, then value and everything else kind of goes along with it. You're stuck with the idea that consciousness itself, a person being aware and being able to put that consciousness and attention on something, is the thing that gives that thing value, that gives that thing any meaning at all. If you were a single being walking upon the planet, the things that you loved, hate, empathize with, despise, got on your nerves, all of those things will be perfectly true because all of those things are the things you're the only consciousness to make it true. Well, there are 300 some billion of us. I mean, at least in the United States, 300 some million. That's a lot of perspectives. I mean, that's a lot of people valuing things a particular way. How you value the world, meaning the weights, the scales, the way that you look at things, your experiences, the things that those experiences taught you, give you a workable point of view of the world. You have a certain viewpoint. That viewpoint has a certain texture, that has a certain paradigm. So yes, there are things that happen externally outside of you, as far as we know, physical matter reality. There's no way to know for certain, but the things that happen outside of you. How you relate to those things, the way you see, view those things, creates a universe all unto itself. You are giving those things value in the same way somebody else is giving those things value, in the same way someone else is giving those things value. And you can be observing the exact same phenomena. And each one of you will weigh, scale, value, love, hate, empathize, all those things differently. The only real measure that you have is how that thing that you're observing and how you feel and think about that thing relates to the actual thing. That thing is blue. I'm describing it as blue. 100 other people see that thing as blue. That thing is blue. I think there's a wall here. No one else sees that wall here. Is there actually a wall there? I mean, these things are, it's like, whether the world out there beyond us is this kind of figment of our imagination is kind of besides the point. It's the thing that we interact with. Clearly, there are things that we interact with. What we're saying and how what we're saying relates to the things that are in experiential reality is what we consider to be true or false. But between those, the coloring of those, you're stuck in a different world with each person that you interact with. How those things are weighed and scaled is different according to the individual. This leads to dilemmas, of course. I mean, like I said, if you were the only one on the planet, fair enough, but you're not the only one on the planet. Those workable points of views are not necessarily just things unto themselves. Those things are also interacted with. They're modified. So assume for the moment that the workable point of view that you yourself have just in a natural way is if somebody threw you into a room, you're ajar inside of consciousness, and you were asked questions and given experiences and scenarios and everything else. And this is me. This is who you are. Say for the moment, though, the moment that you're in physical matter reality, you're ensconced in a body, you're stuck with dilemmas. The things that you love and that you hate and that you care about, the things that are acted upon you, the consequences of the things that you might do, the things that you want, those things are modifiers to that particular workable point of view. What you want is always ensconced in something else. It is often difficult to find what's the individual and what's these things that are outside of the individual, and you can make a case. But there is no difference. That yes, there's an aspect of a person that's a person, but that person is constantly changed and modified and everything else based on the larger society itself. What I'm getting at here is when you're, those modifiers matter. Not just matter, those modifiers are important. And those things kind of work in tandem with your inner world. I don't know what Sanders' workable point of view is. What I do know is it's very possible that that point of view is being modified by the factors that are outside of Bernie Sanders. Now, whether you're talking about political, whether you're talking about him wanting something, who knows? Who knows? It's hard to know what his original base point of view is were not the political thing a part of the process. Meaning, does he believe that Russia has something to do with it? Yes or no? And by the way, your workable point of view is your filter of the world. And there is no way to get rid of that filter, at least not a filter. You would always have a filter. Say for the moment that head in a jar thing, providing there's nothing else acting on that particular consciousness. You have a point of view of things. That point of view of things is just a lens. It's a filter. It's the way you perceive the world and the environment that you're in. You can shift those filters, meaning you could jump to another filter, but there is no way to look at the world as is. You're always stuck behind a glass looking at that stuff. There is no way to get the actual results, the actual thing. There was always be something missing. There's always something fuzzy in the way you perceive it. And you're also stuck with this idea that your workable point of view may not be the best point of view to describe a particular phenomena. Understand what I mean? You have to kind of take into account that there's always a bias built into whatever point of view you're taking. And there's some points of views that are more equipped to deal with certain things than others. You can understand the problem here. How does an individual know when they're wrong? Now, I'm not talking about wrong purely from the standpoint of I'm observing something that's out there and that particular thing is. No, I'm talking about just basic. Your point of view of the world is not equipped to deal with a particular phenomena. It happens. Now, there's something to switch filters, meaning, okay, I'm going to look at this in a particularly different way, or I'm going to look at this in a different way, I'm going to look at this in a different way. But how do you know the filter that you're using is the right filter to use to look at the world? You being somebody is a peacenik, those guys are complete peaceniks, regardless of the situation that comes up. Germany and Hitler is a big fucking deal, and the peacenik is looking at this like, no, I think we're going to make buddies. It's not always the right workable point of view. That's all I'm saying. Those points of view are just filters. You would never actually see the world the way the world actually is. The best that you can do is get a filter that gives you some level of approximation to what you're seeing. And those filters, in many respects, can be modified. Am I going to get a cash for this particular thing? Meaning, am I getting compensated for something that I'm doing? Hey, that's a modifier. Maybe I need that cash because I don't necessarily want to go without, in which case, yes, I see the world a particular way if I was a head in a jar, but I'm not a head in a jar. I have needs, I have wants. So yes, my filter has been modified based on my surroundings and circumstances. I don't know what Bernie Sanders' base level is. I don't know if politics is filtering Bernie Sanders' point of view. I don't know if it's one of those things if Sanders is like, this is the best case that I have. If I don't go along with this Russia thing, I don't have the opportunity to run in the primaries but I have no idea. I have no idea. I know two things. This is remarkably dangerous, and this is pathetically sad that this is what Sanders has been devolved into. Understand what they're saying and understand what Sanders is supporting here. Russia hacked us, working with Donald Trump, exposing the fact that Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton were cheating Bernie Sanders. The same Bernie Sanders that is on Twitter shilling for the Russian narrative that is trying to cover up the fact that Hillary Clinton Democrats cheated Sanders. The same Sanders that's shilling for the fact that the DNC and Hillary Clinton cheated Sanders. Who's covering? I mean, it's a circular thing. I mean, it's a weird thing to see. Bernie Sanders is actually protecting the Russian narrative. And I'm just trying to make the point of repeating it in this way, in the sense that the Russian narrative is that Russia hacked the DNC, releasing factually true information showing that the Clinton Foundation was a slush fund, and that the DNC was cheating Bernie Sanders. Same Bernie Sanders. I know I'll repeat this. I want to get the circular aspect into this. This is sad. This is sad. You're fighting a narrative, or fighting for a narrative, showing that they cheated you. Protecting the fact that they cheated you, essentially covering for the fact that they cheated you. It's profoundly sad. I should play the video with Bernie Sanders crying on the at the DNC convention, because this is profoundly sad. I don't know if Sanders believes it. I don't know if his workable point of view is, holy shit, Russia hacked and this is a big deal. I don't know if Bernie Sanders, his point of view is, I think this Russia stuff is nonsense, or I don't even care about this Russia stuff, but I need to fall in line with this if I'm going to have the potential to run again in 2020. I don't know. Bernie Sanders will have all sorts of points of view on this particular issue. Is there an impetus for them to be modified by politics? Yes. Does that make a difference? No. I'm sorry. I don't think it does. I don't think it does. I don't like the Russia stuff. It looks like they're pushing us to a larger conflict with Russia for whatever reason. And I don't like the fact that the guy who's supposed to be honorable and the guy who's supposed to be the most honest man in Congress, that guy who's supposed to be above the politics of it all, is purely playing politics. Dangerous politics at that. So, this is a fail for me. Sir Bike Salat Day. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm actually surprised anybody's here today. But, Sir Bike Salat, thank you. I totally appreciate it. Yeah, I believe Russia has some roles people have already stated. It's normal for states to interfere with other elections. Derek Neal. That's the other part, man. They're acting as if interference is somehow... This is uncommon. The United States was paying terrorists to undermine a country. We're bitching that some other nation might have interfered, hacking something, releasing information. Do you know how sad this is? Do you know how pathetic this is? It's hard to get across the level of patheticness that this reaches. And the idea that Bernie Sanders falls in line with this, playing this Democratic argument. I understand he wants to have some opposition to Trump. I understand he sees the other party as being some level of opposition. After he uses dead husk as opposition to what he considers to be a monster. All of that's true. Is it possible to provide that opposition without falling in line with this particular garbage? Is it possible to do that? Tabitha Enriquez. Bernie Sanders has gone along with Russia BS on a few occasions. Jamal is right. Bernie is allowing Democrats to blame Russia for her loss. And this is dangerous, an act of war, according to some Democrats. Lefties, and I'm going to do a separate video on this. We believe, or some of us believe, that getting Democrats in Congress in 2018 is a good thing. You understand that these rabid group of Democrats have positioned themselves into this idea that we're supposed to be at war with Russia. That is profoundly dangerous. What Democrat is going to take the office in 2020? And I know Democrats or some lefties have convinced themselves that it will be Bernie Sanders. But how do you know that? How do you know that? You're putting a Democrat in the office in 2018 and 2020, let's say House or Senate. You put some other random Democrat, some warmonger, that gets in because the other monster was scarier. And you've positioned your country with a party that believes that Russia cheated it. This is profoundly dangerous. This is profoundly dangerous. That's all I'm saying. Steph, he's on point with everything else, but why help the intel agencies that are going to try to sabotage him as well? Right. It's like, why help the guys that are going to kick you in the knees when you try to run in 2020? It turns my stomach when I think all that has been done and is still going to indicate the Clintons' hubris. Jamelia Waters. And that's what this is. So in the book Shattered, I've recounted this before. In the book Shattered, you have Hillary Clinton planning, I didn't lose the election because I was a horrible candidate. It was all Russia and Comey, and I need my media team to get out there and make people believe it. And they've done a good job making people believe that nonsense. Getting an investigation into Trump using a bogus dossier that Hillary Clinton herself paid for. And when you ask people, when you say, do you believe that Russia has some influence? The majority say yes. Now, it's another question of whether you believe it had any kind of impact. At that point, Democrats are, yes, she lost because of Russia. The rest of the public, not so much. But they've won on this idea of Russia having influence in the election. It has nothing to do with the reality of it. It has everything to do with what they've been screaming on media. So, yeah. Putin has a lot of patience. Shirley Vick. I don't know what that means, but okay. Alik Mater. And read Bernie Shattered as FFS. I don't know what that is. For fuck's sake, go. Yeah, Shattered is awesome. Shattered is awesome. Shattered is really good. Hey Jamal, it's 10:30 here in the UK. Watching the Progressive Soapbox over breakfast. What's happening, London Bless? What's happening? Hillary wanted a no-fly zone in Syria, hot war with Russia. Yes, NATO ramping up on Russia's borders. This is one of a push to a new Cold War. To be the Enriquez. Yes, 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 and that's my point. Yes. That's my point. Elise Motter. Bernie has straight up called all Democrats to not politicize this. He knows damn well what they're doing. Yeah, he does. At least I think he does. I think he's smarter than that. I think he's smarter to know enough to know, but I don't know what his point of view is. I just know he's falling in line with this shit. That's what I know. And even if Sanders wins in 2020, will Sanders be strong enough to not go along with some of the people in his party that thinks it would be a good fucking idea to go after Russia on this? I don't know. Shirley Vick, Jamal, what I mean is Putin did not want to start a war. No, fuck no. I don't think Russia wants to start a war. Hell no. Fletcher Daniels, Jamal is on 420 on this. We have spent too long allowing unreal things he believed despite real things in this world. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to keep this one too long. Old Rusty posted it and I wanted to bring it up because I thought it was a good post. Or at the very least, I thought it was a good thing to talk about. Yeah, I'm not on board with this Russian nonsense. And it saddens me that Sanders has taken it to this extent where you're posting out this stuff on Twitter in order to fall in line with the Democratic Party that is just holding up, A, their failure, or not necessarily want to talk about their failure, and B, covering up for the fact that they cheated you. They cheated you. They cheated the 220 million people that supported Sanders, or $220 million. The people donated the $220 million and gave their support to Bernie Sanders. Not to mention Sanders himself. You shouldn't fall in line with this shit and protect the people who actually cheated you. It's embarrassing. I'll leave it at that. Alright, guys. If you are into the... Oh, Jesus Christ. I had a brain. My brain just completely lost track of it. If you enjoyed the show, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Thanks, guys.